When it comes to living life, there's a lot to overthink, but I don't ever have to overthink my water. I've been drinking Smart Water for years and truly love its pure, crisp taste. It's vapor distilled through a process inspired by clouds. I love chic branding, and Smart Water's sleek bottle shape makes it the perfect accessory for any day bag, workout tote, or backpack. Smart Water is the smart way to hydrate no matter what you have going on in your life. Life is full of choices. Smart Water is a simple one. Visit drinksmartwater.com to learn more.
Hear that? Yeah, that's the sound of you relaxing, because now you're managing diabetes with the Freestyle Libre 3 system. You get to know your glucose levels and where it's headed. Manage your diabetes with more confidence with the Freestyle Libre 3 system. Ready to learn more about the #1 prescribed CGM in the U.S.? Visit freestylelibre.us to learn more. Based on retail sales data for patients' last filled prescription by manufacturer. Refer to the FLAIR NL4 study published in BMJ Open Diabetes Research and Care 2019. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Kroger brand products exclusively at Baker's have the great taste you'll celebrate. That's why over 40 million people choose Kroger brand products, making them a true crowd pleaser. And with quality guaranteed, you'll love your choice or get your money back. Score Kroger brand products with savings you can cheer for and great taste you can't resist. Baker's, fresh for everyone.
Welcome back to Currently with Curator, where I share my latest style obsessions, all of which you can access through my shopping community, Curator. Okay, let's talk accessories. One of my favorite fashion subjects, of course. To me, accessories can transform your look, and for the upcoming holiday season, I recommend investing in some incredible statement jewelry for all of your upcoming festivities. I chose the Jackie Mac Adhara earrings for my new winter box for this exact reason. They're dramatic, sparkly, and look incredible paired with cocktail dresses, suits, jumpsuits, and even more this season. Because this is a choice item in the box, you can pick between gold or gunmetal to best suit your winter wardrobe. The earrings alone are valued at $78, but you can get the entire curation, a total value of over $400 for only $74.99 by using code HEELS25. That's HEELS 25. Sign up now on Curator.com. That's CURATEUR.com and get extra glam this holiday season. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Zoe, and you're listening to Climbing in Heels. This show is all about celebrating extraordinary superwomen who will be sharing their incredible journeys to the top, all while staying glamorous. Today with me, we have Lizzy Mathis, actress, model, food blogger, and of course, one of my very dear friends. But she's so much more than that. She's also the founder and editor-in-chief of the Cool Mom Co., an all-inclusive, diversity-driven hangout destination for moms. So basically, she's the ultimate mompreneur. The hardest part for me about doing this podcast is I love talking to my friends and my girls and whatever, that I'm the hardest part of doing this is to keep it serious, not serious, but to actually ask you what I need to ask you rather than just shooting the shit because I just want to talk to you. So,
okay, wait till you get on my podcast though, because I'm just going to shoot the shit with you.
Listen, it's really going to be shooting the shit, honestly. But then I also want people to learn from you, and I want people to take away how awesome you are, but also the journey, right? And so It's called Climbing in Heels because the women that I'll speak to on this podcast are women that I admire, that I respect, but most importantly, got to where they are, all while not sacrificing the beauty of being a woman. For young people out there, I think there's this misconception sometimes that to be a badass, you have to just be a badass and you have to just be that intimidating, loud person in the room that doesn't dress like a woman, that doesn't feel like a woman, that doesn't, and I think to each their own, right? But I think the idea for me is just really talking to incredible women who have had different journeys to where they are, but got there.
That's right. That's right.
But got there, and not in the way necessarily that, was mapped out, that was like the perfect strategy, that was the cleanest strategy, that was the, because everyone's got their stuff. So
Yeah.
I want to know, how did Lizzy become Lizzy? Like, paint the picture.
I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and I grew up with my mom and my grandma and two older brothers.
Okay.
Like my mom and my grandma was my everything. Those were my parents.
Right.
And so I grew up with women leading the way, and my mom was a single mom and she worked her butt off, and we were your average middle class. We weren't, we definitely didn't have a lot of money or anything like that, but my mom did her absolute best to try and like provide for us and put us in great situations and circumstances and exposure to things the best she could within our community. And so I grew up with two older brothers. So I was the baby girl and I knew it. And I walked that's right. And I walked the world feeling it. And I don't know. I don't know if I ever felt different. I just knew that because I was the youngest, I always wanted to be seen.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot of that when I was younger. And very early on, my mom realized, she was like, I know she wants to do something. I just don't know what it is. Right. Like I was always very smart and I always really loved school. I just loved school.
Isn't that weird? I knew that about you. I was actually going to ask you if you were like nerdy. Like, were you just like this pretty nerd, right? I
was very skinny.
Right.
And so I know everyone looks at that and they're like, oh, big deal, whatever, you were skinny.
Every model was,
right,
that's the age old, like, oh my God, I was so skinny and awkward. I hated it.
It was, but for me, it was like, and I'm sure every model felt this way, but I was so skinny to the point where like my knees would like poke out because those were like my bones, and like my bones were like, so I remember getting teased. I was going to say,
kids probably made fun of you, right?
One, they made fun of me because I was so skinny. And so the whole joke was like, oh, I could break you in half. Oh, all that. But also, I remember being so conscious of being ashy. I used to be like, oh my God, I cannot go to school ashy. So I used to like rub like Vaseline on my elbows and my knees. And I'd be like, I cannot go to school ashy. So then they would also tease me because I was so shiny. So it was like, what are the other?
Girl, this mean girl stuff is so real.
I mean, it would be boys too. It wasn't even just mean girls. It would be boys too.
Oh my God.
But I mean, at the same time, school was always a place where I really enjoyed going because I felt like I just was excited to learn. I was always interested in something else that they were doing. I was always interested in like the social aspect too.
Sure.
Like I loved going and like hanging out and like all that stuff with my friends. So it was interesting. I don't know. School was always like a really fun place for me. So I went to public school my whole life until high school. And in high school, my brothers did not want me to go to their high school. Like my middle brother was like, no, she can't come to school with me. And I was devastated. I was like, what do you mean? I'm going to school with you with all of my friends. And he was like, no, you are not. You're going to go to an all-girls school. And he convinced my mom to send me to an all-girls school. And I was devastatingly furious at him. I was like, are you kidding me?
Wait, I'm sorry. What's the age difference?
We're 3 years apart. So I would have been a freshman and he would have been a senior.
Okay.
And so he was like, no, I'm not going to have my friends hitting on you and trying to date you.
That's what it was about, by the way.
And he was like, I'm not doing that. No. And so he convinced my mom to send me to an all-girls high school. And I was devastated at first. The best thing that ever happened to me. Honestly, people have their own opinions about like all girls school, like however it goes. For me, every idea of leadership, position of power, wherever you thought excellence was, it was all a woman. Right. So like our varsity captain of our basketball team was a girl. I was president of the school, a girl. The smartest person in the AP class was a girl. So for me, it really ingrained this idea, right, that like women have the power to be the smartest in the room, to lead the conversation, and to also be creative and all these things. So for me, it really ingrained very early on this sense of like, who's stopping me now?
Yeah.
Who's stopping me now?
Yeah.
Right? And so from there, I went on to Northwestern and I moved to Chicago after school, after high school.
Is it weird that I like knew this about you without knowing this about you?
I don't know how.
Well, it's just weird because, you know, the hard part about a podcast is no one actually sees you. And in this case, I need to just share with our listeners that you need to, if you don't know who Lizzy is, you should. But beyond that, she's strikingly beautiful.
Oh my God.
And also, I mean, just saying, so is her husband.
You gotta add him in there too.
I mean, you know, he gets a little credit. He gets a little credit. But okay. So you're telling me you've looked like this your whole life, and then you went and you were president of your private all-girls school, and then you went to Northwestern.
So I didn't look like this my whole life, but yes, I definitely grew into this. No, I grew into this. I mean, like you said, I was very awkward. I don't think I really started to appreciate my body till I got to, until I probably entered the modeling industry.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think I really appreciated my frame or my height or any of that until it became a job.
But you know what's so interesting about that? Okay, so first of all, in my opinion, I mean, there was no stopping you in a way from an early age because you grew up not just the baby sister, right? Like kind of navigating your way. But in my opinion, having a sister that's a single mom, there is no harder job.
Right.
There actually, in my opinion, is no harder job than being a single mom and or dad for that. I mean, I just think being a single parent. But I think being a single mom is the most respectful job. And I think when you're a daughter of a single mom, it's just so extra. It's like, because you immediately know that you have a superpower, right? And your mother and your grandmother, right? So you were raised by incredible women. So you were going to be one, right? And so this is so interesting. So then you started modeling at what age?
So I started modeling a little bit in college. I remember, this is very interesting because don't laugh at me.
I want to promise. I mean, I might, but I won't.
Okay. Everyone out there, don't laugh at me either. But in high school, I remember my mom was like, I really wanted to do modeling. I just didn't know how.
Right.
It's something that I was always drawn to it. I just didn't know how to go about it. And so my mom was talking to someone and they were like, well, you're in Michigan. You should put her in the pageant. And I was like, are you sure? Does that like turn me into a model? And everybody in Michigan was like, yes, 1000%. This will turn you into a model. Right. Later on, I realized that they're two very separate things.
Sure.
Just so you know.
Oh, yes.
But anyone listening, there were two separate avenues. However, in Michigan at the time, my mom was like, okay, definitely. So she put me into the Miss Teen Michigan pageant. And so I won. And so my high school year,
obviously.
So
Obviously.
My senior year of high school, I was also Miss Michigan Teen USA. And so I went to like national and did the whole thing. So I thought that was going to turn me into a model. I was convinced. I was like, oh my God, I'm about to be like a model now. Hey. And they were like, no, you need to like go into an agency and
go to
like
New York,
whatever.
probably, right?
Exactly. So funny enough, an agent like saw me or whatever and like was like, you should come to New York. And so that's when I kind of like started modeling.
You know, there's so many things about the modeling industry. That's like its own.
I know.
But I think my question here would be, how was that experience for you?
You know, it was interesting because for me, I felt like New York is where I became a woman.
Yeah. New York will do that to you.
I was in New York. New York will do that to you. And I was in New York and I was traveling all over the place. I was in different countries, but New York was home base.
Yep.
And so as a model, I think that I quickly learned the word no.
Good.
I quickly learned, but not because I was saying it, because people were telling me no.
You mean for the first time you learned rejection? Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Kate Hudson said something one time in a podcast, and she said rejection never really affected her in this industry because she had been rejected by the person that she cared about the most, right? Her father. By her father not being a part of her life, she felt like that was the hardest rejection she would have ever felt. Right.
Okay.
And so rejection in this industry, she was able just to kind of like brush off because her heart had already been rejected by one of the people that she was meant to love the most. Right.
Huh.
And so that always hit me when she said it and I heard it. I was like, damn, that shit is so real.
Yeah.
Because for me, not having my father in my life growing up, I didn't realize it until now as an adult, but it really did prepare me in a different way than I ever would have expected, because there was nothing anyone in the modeling industry or entertainment industry that they could say to me that would really hurt me or break me. Because in so many ways, you know, I had already felt that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Actually, that's actually mind blowing. And I think the reason why is because I understand that so deeply, because having been in this industry my entire adult life, being, you know, on all sides in a way, right? Like just being styling models for my whole career, styling actresses for my whole career, being on various sides of the camera in different ways. Yeah. But I always said very early on in my career that I could never be a model or an actor because I'm so hard on myself, right? And so that I remember as a stylist losing my first client, right?
Right.
That kind of fear of failure for me drove me a lot, right? And I remember a client leaving me, and I remember my agent at the time going, babe, don't even think about taking that personally. Right. They're not loyal. Nobody in this industry is loyal. You're loyal to yourself. You're loyal to your family.
Right.
But like, and trust me, she's going to come back. And she actually came back a month later, which was ironic. She did. But I was shook. Yeah, and I felt like I was the worst stylist in the world. I was so I guess what I'm saying is that lesson that you're talking about and that lesson that Kate was talking about is that's an actual gift in life. To be able to say, you know what? It's not me, it's them. It's not what they're looking for. It's not the part. Like, I'm not right for that part. Like, whatever it is. And so for me, being on the other side of that and doing model castings and doing all the it was horrific for me to say no to girls. Like, even though, you know, and in the olden days, people were not as kind as they are now. And so I would have these like casting directors next to me literally going no in front of the girl. And I'm like, hey, don't do that. She's going to be shook. Like, don't she like, you know? And so
it's true.
So what you're saying really means a lot to me. And I actually think that's such a key to success in any business.
Right. Exactly.
Honestly, because
it prepares you. It just does. It prepares you. And you know what's interesting is that it's not a lesson that I would ask anyone to have or want anyone to have. It's just something obviously out of life that like this is what was the result of that in my childhood, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so I think it is a lesson for everything, every part of life. I really do. But there's not, you know, I don't know. It's like good, but it's also bad. Like, you know, like it's good, but it's also sucks.
It's not how you have to learn it, but I think in general, to be able to take a rejection perhaps and process it as it's not about me. I'm just not right for this job. Or it's not what they're looking for. Or it's not, you know, rather than I suck.
Right. Oh, 1,000%. Rather than, oh, my body isn't right.
Correct.
Or rather than, oh, I need to go lose this weight.
Correct.
Or rather than, I should change my nose.
Correct.
Right.
Exactly.
It is exactly that. Now, don't get me wrong. It's like you get sad about it and that's okay. But I think in the heart, like at the baseline of it, my mom really set a foundation before I entered the industry and was just like, listen, you're perfect. You're great. You're fucking amazing. Don't let anyone knock you off of that rocker. And now let's go. Like, let's figure it out.
I mean, I think that about you. Totally unbiased, by the way. Totally unbiased.
I'm sure. Wink, wink.
I mean, totally unbiased. Okay, so then moving on to like, what was your game-changing, life-changing moment where you're like, okay, I'm done with modeling for now. next chapter, whatever, right? I always joke every day that I'm like on chapter 410 of my life.
Right?
Right? So like, because people often ask me like, what was that pivotal moment that like did X, right? And I always say like, there's probably 5 at different points in my career that made me do that, right?
Yeah.
So what for you, when you think about this was game changing?
The next in the timeline, because, you know, obviously, like you said, there's probably many along the way. But 2 stand out to me. But the next in the timeline was having kids.
Yeah.
That'll
change you real quick.
That'll snap you up real fast.
Okay, well, that's the best kind of notification. That's another sale on Shopify, the platform trusted by millions of entrepreneurs to create their online store and so much more. Shopify makes it simple to sell to anyone from anywhere. Whether you're selling fashion and beauty products or home decor, start selling with Shopify and join the platform simplifying commerce for millions of businesses worldwide. With Shopify, you'll customize your online store to your brand, discover new customers, and build the relationships that will keep them coming back. Shopify covers all the sales channels to successfully grow your business, from an in-person POS system to an all-in-one e-commerce platform, even across social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And thanks to 24/7 support and free on-demand business courses, Shopify is here to help you succeed every step of the way. It's how every minute new sellers around the world make their first sale with Shopify, and you can too. This podcast actually started as an opportunity for me to inspire and share incredible stories of hard work and success with all of you. Being a self-starter or entrepreneur is never easy. I can tell you that, and overcoming challenges is part of that process. But with tools like Shopify, you can grow your business with peace of mind. Our online shopping community, Curator, switched to Shopify in 2019, and I cannot tell you how amazing it has been for us. We have been able to expand our shop into so many categories, and the customizations that are possible have been absolutely game-changing. When you're ready to take your idea to the world, do it with Shopify, the commerce platform powering millions of businesses down the street and around the globe. Now it's your turn to try Shopify for free and start selling anywhere. Sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/Zoe, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Zoe to start selling online today. Shopify.com/Zoe.
I was the type of person where I wanted a family. Don't get me wrong. Like
Same.
I always envisioned myself with a family.
Same.
However, I never planned a time to stop and do it.
Sure.
Like I wasn't like, okay, at 25 or at 27 or at 30, I'm going to stop and just like have my kids no matter what I'm doing. I didn't do that.
Right.
I wasn't that far ahead.
Yep.
I knew it was something that I wanted to do. But as I was going through life, no time made sense in my head. I was like, not now. Not now. So it really took my husband and I made a pact. Issa and I made a pact very early on that we would never put career before starting and having a family. Okay. That's first and foremost. Okay. So with that pact being made very early on, it really took Issa being like, I think it's time.
Interesting.
I think it's time. And I'd be like, no,
babe, like exact same.
Exact same, right? Roger too, right?
100%. We both felt like we were still like 22.
Yes.
So it was like, well, okay, later. And then he's
Issa was like, now. I was like, are you sure? Are you positive? He's like, yeah, right now. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I'm so glad he did, because if it wasn't for him saying that and really like putting that into my like frame of reference, I probably still would be like, you sure? Now?
Isn't that interesting? Same, but
it is.
But I have a theory about that. I actually think all of the women that I know that are very ambitious career women, they all want to be moms, right?
Yes,
like 95% of them know,
right,
without question, they're going to be a mom. Right. The problem is, as women, we actually have a clock on that, right? We do. Mm-hmm. Biologically, we have a clock.
So true.
And, you know, I think if we could have them at 50, we probably would wait. Like,
we sure would.
I mean, and listen, you can.
More.
You can now.
You can. Nowadays, you can.
You can.
You're absolutely right.
But
You're absolutely right.
I do think that if Roger didn't say, we're running out of time, I would have just probably gone another 5 years, right?
Easy.
And now I'm like, oh, thank God. You know?
Me too. Well, also what was so funny about it for me is that and so when I say baby, was that transitional moment for me, it took me into the next phase of my career.
Yeah.
So if I hadn't become a mom when I did,
Yep.
I still would just be modeling, acting, traveling, I would still be on that same path instead of literally kind of making such a huge leap into something that I felt for me was a lot more meaningful, for me, and feeling my bucket feeling a lot more filled with what I do now than before. And so it's interesting.
So tell me about cool moms, because obviously you're a cool mom and we know that and all these things. And but so you are loving this chapter, right? I
mean,
you're obviously honestly an amazing mom, but I mean, from a professional standpoint, you love this.
From a professional standpoint, as well as personal, I mean, honestly, I feel like I am in a phase of life where I feel so appreciative. I just feel like this is now, this is what I was meant to do. And I'm convinced of it. And I'm convinced that everything along the way has literally just been a preparation for where I am now. 1,000%. 1,000%. And so the Cool Mom Co. is my website. It is all about the intersection between motherhood and womanhood. Yep. It is kind of like the idea you were just talking about, right? We all have a journey. We all come from somewhere, but not just to focus in on us as mothers. So it's not just to focus in on oh, we're moms and, here's some breastfeeding tips and here's this. It's not really, it's about beauty and style and life and living and all those things. But for me, I created it because I felt like there wasn't a place in the market that was diversity driven, which means that it was an all-inclusive space where I could see myself in that space too. Yeah. And it still felt cool. You know what I'm saying? That it was still something where I felt like I could still be my fashionable, cool, real woman person. Yeah. But now I just happen to be a mom.
You know, it's interesting to go back to the having a panic about being a mom. I was such a workaholic. I had worked 24/7 for 15 years. And I was like, hold on. I barely have time to take a shower. How on earth am I going to have time for a child? And when I remember going on the hospital tour with Roger at Cedars, and I was 8 months pregnant. I looked at Roger and I go, no. And he goes, what? I go, I'm not doing it. And he goes, what do you mean? And I go, I can't do this. I'm terrified. I had a full panic attack in the hospital. I literally went into the labor and delivery area and I was and he goes, well, babe, I think it's too late. He's like, are you going to have a C-section? I'm like, no. He's like, you're going to push it out? I go, no. He's like, okay, babe, one way or another, we got to take the baby out. And I was like, I can't do this. And I had an actual panic attack. And I worked literally, I think, up until the day I gave birth. And when I had him, to your point, I was so in love with him and I was so blinded by him that I couldn't see straight. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't figure out how to get back to my life. Yes. I couldn't figure out how on earth I was going to be Rachel Zoe. How was I going to work and how was I going to be there for my clients? How was I going to do the 800 jobs I had? And just love him and be just all in with him, right?
Right. That's the thing.
And I had a real identity crisis. And so I know what you mean about it because you and I have talked at dinners and things about, do we want more kids? Okay, wait, I think this is enough. Okay, wait, I still need to need to be me somehow and feel like a woman that has a purpose beyond not just being a mom, because that's just such a full-time job in and of itself.
It is, 1,000%.
And I do actually think that being the CEO of your children is actually the hardest job of all jobs.
1,000%. 1,000%. But it's interesting. I heard a quote the other day, and it was this woman who said that her mother would always say this to her. She said, being a mother is absolutely by far the most amazing thing I've ever done, but it's not the only thing that I've done.
Yeah.
And it really stuck with me because obviously I love being a mother. It has fulfilled so many things within me. It has given me so much love and joy in this world. However, it's not the only ambition that I've had, and it's not the only thing that I want the world to see me as. And so for me, I think that as amazing as it has been, and I feel like as transformative as it's been in my journey, I think it's only propelled me to have a drive and ambition for so many other things as well. And just to like get back on your point, I think that for me becoming a mother, I got in so deep into motherhood too. After I had Nima, who was my oldest, I had miscarried before. Yeah. And I remember thinking how devastating it was. I was traveling, Issa and I, we were traveling so much. We had, our careers, we were gone 3 times a week. We were constantly back and forth between New York and LA. We were traveling for work. It was just such a busy time. And so I remember after I had her and I had had the miscarriage, I remember thinking, I just want to be with her. And if I'm not with her, then it has to be worth it for me to be away from her.
That's what I always say.
And so for me, it started to become this real like mind shift. Yeah. Of like, okay, hold up. Like, is this worth being like
it's
this?
It's true.
And I had to really feel passionate about the work that I was doing.
I used to say, like, once I had kids, it became about checking boxes. If I'm not tucking in my baby, is this making me a lot of money? Is this an important career move?
That's right.
Like, is it, if it didn't check, or am I showing up for a friend that needs me? And if it wasn't one of those 3 boxes, I stayed home.
That's right.
And, I do think that you're so right, because I think we all carry a lot of guilt as mothers. And I think when you're a working mother, that guilt just goes beyond, which is why I always say, like, being a single working mother is like, it's so layered. It's so hard. Layered. And it's
so hard.
And the guilt and the so it's just, there's so much respect there. And I think that for us, I think to have something like Cool Moms and to have this community, right, of our friends and everything, that we can like say, okay, it's okay. Like, let's hang at so-and-so's house, or let's go out tonight with our husbands, or and we have to give ourselves permission to do that. And I'm guilty of not doing that enough.
I know,
honestly. But I do find that, like, when I'm with you and you sometimes say something like, I'm out tonight, like Mama's had a rough week, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is. It's like, Look, like
my mom used to come home from work every single day, and she would go immediately to her room and lock herself in the room for 15 minutes. And I used to be, as a kid, I used to literally be waiting by her door. Like, Mom, is it over yet? Mom, like knocking on the door. And she used to be like, Lizzy, 10 more minutes. And for her now, as a mother myself, I realized it was her moment to make her shift, right? She was shifting from career woman now into motherhood. And she needed those 15 minutes to just like focus, zen out, before she like took on the role of now everything that encompassed being a single mom. Yeah. And so I just remember that so vividly. Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah. It's like, I think but that was her like self-love moment, right? That was her like self-care, self-love, like little moment for herself. And now I realize it. But at the time I just be like, mama.
You should put that on Cool Moms, by the way.
I know, right?
You should say what my mom's 15 minutes meant to her and now means to me.
Yeah.
Because
that should be one of my Cool Mom Code questions for all the mamas.
100%.
Right?
You know when I do mine after the kids go to sleep. And I find that I stay up until 1 just because that time is so sacred, amazing, that I just don't feel guilt, and I can just sit in my own head and my space, So,
but then do you know who gives me guilt at that time?
Issa.
Issa.
Of course. They need attention.
Issa. He's like, wait a minute, hold up, kids are down. It's our time. I'm like, hold up. I'm like, Issa, hold on.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. America. Like, you guys should do like a poster or something. I swear, you guys walk in, I feel like it's like the cover of an actual like living magazine. I'm like, are you okay?
Don't tell him that. Don't tell him that.
I feel like I always tell him he's handsome. Is that bad?
Well, it's good. No, he needs to hear it too. Issa's amazing. He's a very good-looking man, and I feel very blessed. But more importantly, Issa is a rock star.
Of course he is. He's married
really
to you.
Is. But you know what it is, though? I think also being raised by a single mom, I think that I appreciate being in a partnership so much.
Yes, of course.
Because there's so many times where I look up and I'm like, damn, you had to do all this by yourself?
Yes.
Like, ooh, that is a lot.
Isn't that incredible?
And so it gives me so much. It's incredible. And I'm like, you had to make all these decisions. Mm-hmm. It's the decision making that's sometimes the hardest part too. You had to make all these decisions throughout the day by yourself. And I'm like, having my partner is like half the battle.
It is.
I feel so appreciative.
It is. And it's so good that you have that and that your kids have that. And
I know.
You guys are the best. What do you find to be the most challenging in your life? Honestly, like right now, what are those things that trigger you to be like, I'm done? Like I'm shifting, I'm changing, or I'm over it. Like, do you have those moments? I mean, I know I do.
Yeah.
Tons.
Listen, I mean, I think everything is challenging. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I think life is fucking hard sometimes.
Sure
is. And I think we are in the phase of life with career, with young children, that you're constantly being
needed,
challenged and needed on a day-to-day basis. Yep. So from your patience, your time, your energy. And I think that the challenging part is finding the moments to keep for yourself.
Yeah.
Finding how you can continue to stay above water sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that's my challenge of current. Although how happy you are and how great you feel and how appreciative you are and feeling blessed, it's also just trying to like stay here and not go under the tide a little bit.
And also, I think we're hyper aware, and I think we need to be in full disclosure of how we present ourselves to our children.
Yes.
Because especially you have some girls, but I think, I mean, you're so blessed you have both, so you can really watch the boy girl thing happen. Right. But I do think as a mother modeling for girls, it's like you have to think like, it's almost like when you say things in a way, like I'm watching a lot of my friends with daughters who, they work out 2 hours a day. They don't eat carbs. They don't eat this. And I'm like, watch how you are with your daughters.
That's right.
Because they're watching you. They're learning from you. And,
they sure are.
As it pertains to everything, right? And so I know for me, I mean, I looked at my mom. I looked at my older sister. I mean, those were my real life models, right?
1000%. And I'll take it even one step further, Rachel. For me, I feel like, so one, yes, I have 2 young girls who I am the model for them. Mm-hmm. I also have a young boy who I am the model for, the women that I feel like I want him to have in his life. Yes. Right.
That's the role I play. So
yeah. And how he therefore also treats women in this world. Yep. But then also I'm raising young Black children.
Yes.
And in a world and in a time right now where, I'm constantly feeling the push and pull of, also, they're very blessed to be able to be in private schools and like all these things. Yep. But I also feel the challenge of also making sure that they see themselves, that they are constantly feeling an inclusion and feeling like they're not, feeling like an outsider in this world that they're in. And so for me, that's also very conscious as I'm raising young Black women and a young Black man, right? Yes. And so it's I don't know, it's interesting. It's interesting because although I'm their example, I'm constantly also trying to feed in
that is
different
a whole
things.
Nother.
Yeah. And also being in a place like LA, right?
Yes.
Where my husband was raised in Birmingham, Alabama. Mm-hmm. I was raised in Detroit, Michigan. Mm-hmm. this was it was never a second thought for us.
Yep.
Like we always had so much diversity around us, and and so I don't know, I constantly just like, I think about that with my children, and I'm always like, what can I do to make sure that you guys feel and see and feel seen and heard in this world and know the power of your voice?
Of course.
Right. But I'm lucky to also be around families and people and communities that also are very understanding and welcome that.
Of course. 1,000%. And that affects every decision, I imagine.
Every decision.
Right? I mean,
I
mean, as you said, full-time job, very layered, and your actual job.
Exactly.
And your actual jobs, I would say. But I mean, but all of it, I think, actually pushes you further, to be honest, and I think it actually likely inspires you to do more and like start more and champion more and be louder and right. I mean,
1,000%. The experiences you have, especially within your youth, will propel you to where you will go. And I think that, every challenging moment that you have is another lesson to propel you even further. And that's how you have to kind of think about it. It just really is. It's all a lesson in this world to take you to another height.
Do you feel, or has there been a person or people that have tried to prevent you from winning, tried to prevent you from succeeding? Like tried to take you down? I've had countless.
This is very interesting. I think that, and you're going to hate my answer in a way.
No.
Because I think it's going to come across so like, oh,
no.
Really, girl?
No.
Really, girl?
I believe you. You don't lie and you don't sugarcoat things.
I think I don't. I really don't. And Rachel knows me.
No.
Rachel knows. I'm like, girl.
Lizzy says it.
So I'm like, I'm going to give it to you. I think there always will be haters.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are haters around.
Mm-hmm. Tons.
I also feel like the energy that I present into the world, I don't attract it.
Right.
So even if it's around me, I don't see it.
Right.
Even if it's around me, I ignore it.
Right.
Even if it's around me, it hasn't registered. So in my world and how I've viewed my life and my things, I feel like I have always had strong, amazing women around me that I've either learned from or who have paved a way for me or who has inspired me or in some way, shape or form gave me another like stepping tool on my journey. And I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but anyone who has even begun to challenge that idealism in me, I've distanced myself from. Instantly, or not even realizing it.
Right.
So I can't even give you an experience or a time or a moment where I felt like, oh, that girl was trying to hate on me and like, ooh, like I had to push her aside. No, I can't even tell you a time.
See, I'm pulling your energy right now.
Yeah.
I'm literally, no, Lizzy, honestly, because I actually feel like that's such an amazing way to kind of conclude this, because for me, it's sort of, I'm a little more vulnerable that way. And I think for you, like you do have that energy. You do have that energy, and no one is going to, pardon my French, but no one's going to fuck with you, right? So I guess what I'm saying is like, you're sort of like, you may want to, but I don't see you right now. Like, I don't feel you right now. So you don't even like,
I don't even entertain it. And I don't think I ever have.
That's amazing. I think that's amazing. I think that we are inclined to feel differently. Mm-hmm. And I think that this generation, my niece included, who just graduated from Ross School at Michigan, and she's more like, but I think her younger self was more vulnerable. And I think now this self, she found her voice, and I think this is what we're trying to do here, right?
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, listen, that doesn't come overnight, right?
Right. I have a really close friend also here, and I want to end on this, but she also shares that she has a similar energy to you of like, this is my mission, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. You can't really touch this, right? Like, don't bring this down, right?
No.
And she explained to me, and it made so much sense, that what she came from and how she grew up, she's already felt all that. Right. So she has worked real hard to do this now. And she's like, I'm living this this life now, and I've worked fucking ass off for it. And guess what?
Right.
Like, I'm not going back to that feeling.
That's right. I'm not going back. I've been there, done that. Don't need it anymore.
Babe, this is how you've climbed in heels. I love you.
Yeah.
I love you so much.
Love you.
Okay. It's time for Ask Rachel. Okay, what's my makeup routine? My makeup routine really varies depending on what I'm doing and where I'm going. But my everyday makeup routine, I would say I put at least 2 serums and an eye cream and a face cream to kind of keep me hydrated throughout the day. And then a light foundation. And I use a Charlotte Tilbury palette most of the time that kind of has a cheek bronzer and blush and highlighter, and then like 3 shadow colors. And I just kind of find that can sort of wake up my face throughout the day. And I just put a little sort of bronzy gold shadow on my lid, a little bit of a shadow pencil, either in a deep green or bronze, mascara, concealer, and sort of contour my cheeks a little. I just do it all very fast. And then usually some kind of berry stain on my lips. And that's sort of my everyday makeup. And then at night, typically I'll do a smoky eye. And I use everything from Rare Beauty to Charlotte Tilbury pencils and shadows, Tom Ford. I'm really such a makeup lover, so I really like to play with different palettes. But typically my night look is a smoky eye with a paler lip, or a lighter eye with mascara and a sort of deep, sort of plum Bordeaux lip. Okay, do my feet hurt from wearing high heels? The answer is rarely, almost never. And I think it's mostly because I won't buy shoes that aren't comfortable. And I always wear a platform so that the incline is not so incredibly steep. And I find it to be much more comfortable. And I think that my feet are accustomed to be wearing very high heels since I was 13. And I think they don't know anything different. But, talk to me in 20 years and maybe I'm going to be in so much pain. But for now, I'm okay. Okay, don't forget to submit your questions for next week's episode. All you have to do is DM us your questions to @ClimbingInHeelsPod on Instagram, and I might just answer your question. Lizzy Mathis is a total powerhouse, just like all the other mamas out there juggling it all. So many of the women that I get to have on this podcast are very dear friends of mine, and yet I continue to learn so much when I have them on. I just think Lizzy's so impressive, like president of an all-girls private school and then going on to Northwestern, which is like an extraordinary college, and then obviously modeling and acting and all these things. But I think she's just ambitious. She's a doer. Her energy is extraordinary. And my biggest takeaway from talking to her, honestly, was sort of like, let the haters hate, keep them out. They can't touch me. I don't feel them. I don't see them. And I think that kind of energy is really exemplary, honestly, because it's something that I now want to like walk away and put in my life and not get as taken down by people that want to hate on me, because that can eat at you. I mean, and it does. So much learned today. So thanks to Lizzy for being on. Thank you so much for listening to Climbing in Heels. And don't forget to rate a review wherever you get podcasts. It always helps. Say how much you love it. While you're at it, follow me at Rachel Zoe and at Climbing in Heels on Instagram for more updates on upcoming guests, episodes, and all things Curator. Talk to you next week. Stay stylish.
Whether it's game day, movie night, or just a busy day, it's always time for Papa Murphy's. And now you can get any medium 2-topping pizza for just $6.99. That's right. The whole family can get exactly what they want any day of the week for any occasion. Any toppings, any sauce, only $6.99. Now that's meaty yum. If only everything else in life was like our deal. Order any medium 2-topping pizza for just $6.99 at papamurphys.com.
You slept through your alarm, missed the train, and your breakfast sandwich, cold. Sounds like you could use some luck.
I'm Victoria Cash, and Lucky Land is where people go every day to get lucky. At Lucky Land, you can play over 100 casino-style games for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Go to LuckyLandSlots.com and get lucky today. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Kroger brand products have the great taste you'll celebrate. That's why over 40 million people choose Kroger brand products, making them a true crowd pleaser. And with quality guaranteed, you'll love your choice or get your money back. Score Kroger brand products with savings you can cheer for and great taste you can't resist. Kroger, fresh for everyone.